It's just made sense. Why? Do I need to explain? I feel like those that know me, you know me. If you know, you know. Those that don't, well, you know, you'll learn.
Other people, I'm sure. The Supreme Court has held repeatedly, Senator. I don't think it would be
What can you tell them, brothers?
If you can't keep your opponents from scoring, just outscore them.
That's right, just what the song says, folks. You might be talking a lot and saying nothing. Might be doing a whole lot of yelling. Upbeat. Could be whispering, whatever, you know. But you're not saying anything. Well, folks, my job here is to say something. You're tuned in to Just Made Sense. Hosted by me, yours truly, Just. That's short for Justice. That's capital J, lowercase u, lowercase s. Full government name, Justice. You know what it is. Come on now. It's not just me. It's not just you, but it's just us. Episode 14, Laces for Lupus. Guys, it's been a great month so far. I'm enjoying life. I'm living life. Thankful for every day. Glad to be here once again with you guys. I want to say shout out to the new listeners. Shout out to the old listeners. Shout out to everybody supporting, tuning in. I appreciate all your encouragement, comments, tweets, emails, texts, calls, just everybody that shows love. I appreciate it. And those that don't show love, hey, I still know you're out there, and I appreciate your listening ear. First off, I do want to start off with prayers and condolences to the family of Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings. He passed away earlier today at the age of 68. He was also the chair of the House Oversight and Reform Committee. I became familiar with him when Obama was in office, and even when he was running. They were real good buddies. And anytime there's a black politician out there that's always in a leadership role, I feel like that's just a great example to the youth that there's so many different ways that you could be a voice in your community, in your city, state, town, country. Local government, big-time government. Regardless, prayers and condolences to those who knew him, his family and loved ones. I'm sure he'll definitely be missed. Those will be big shoes to fill in Congress, as well as the chair of the House Oversight and Reform Committee. I mean, you guys know I'm not a big politics guy, but of course, anytime somebody passes away, you definitely want to make sure that their family and friends know that they are in our thoughts and prayers. So definitely prayers and condolences to former Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings. Like I said, black politician, passed away at 68 due to some health concerns there. Definitely wish his family and friends the best. You probably heard me at the beginning of the show say Laces for Lupus. For those of you who follow me on social media at Justice Rogers TV, you know the first name Justus, last name Rogers, Rogers TV, as in short for television. You might have seen me tweet Laces for Lupus, or put on my Instagram Laces for Lupus, or put on my story, or whatever it may have been on. If you haven't seen Laces for Lupus, that is a non-profit organization that, God gave me the idea and the vision to come up with. For those that aren't fully aware or aren't super close to me, I am, and have always, and will probably forever will be, I'm a sneakerhead. Always been into shoes. Shout out to all my friends out there that are also in the shoe game, and sneakerheads as well. And I would say ever since I was a kid, even as a baby, my first pair of shoes was a pair of Jordans that my aunt got for me. So I think from that point on, I was hooked. And when I started getting allowance as a kid, I would save it up to buy shoes. Every Christmas, it was always a pair of shoes, either for basketball to play at school, or a pair of shoes just to wear to church and to the mall and movies and all that type of stuff you do as a kid and as a teenager. But I've always been into shoes, and I've always been in to drawing. For those of you that have seen my little cartoons that I sketch and doodle every once in a while. Those two things have always been a big part of my life. And even moving up here to the Pacific Northwest, it was a great move, just because I'm here, and it's like Shoe Central up here. Nike, their headquarters is up here in Beaverton. Adidas has their offices and store here in Portland as well. And even Under Armour has an office here, Columbia, just a bunch of different brands that not all, shoe companies, but major shoe companies, they have made the Portland metro area and Oregon their home. And I definitely came up here with some visions and plans that of my own that I wanted to see come to pass, and those are already looking really good so far. I know those that follow me on social media saw that I was on Adidas campus about a week or two ago. I got a great friend over there. Shout out to John G, my guy from Brooklyn. He's a designer at Adidas, and so we're working on some things, and it's always been a big part of my life. And so being here definitely opens up some more opportunities, similar to living in California, where, you're closer to, music industry and Hollywood and all that stuff. Up here, it's not irregular or weird to see, somebody that, has a Nike employee, badge or license plate, or, you just see those things around here because, the people that live here, they work for these different huge companies that are known worldwide. And so Laces for Lupus is a nonprofit organization that I was blessed with the idea and a vision to come up with, where it revolves around shoes and clothing and sportswear, but it's all to bring awareness to lupus. It's all to bring attention to the disease and the concerns regarding lupus. And the main reason it's for lupus specifically, and of course I have a permission to speak on this, and I spoke to her about it, and I appreciate her courage and even just her fighting spirit that she's had all these years. My mother was diagnosed with lupus back in 2006, and it's 2019 now, so if you do the math, it's over 10 years that she's been really putting a beat down on lupus. But before my mother had lupus, I don't think I ever had even heard of lupus or knew what lupus was. And when I got the knowledge of it, or became more interested in it because it had touched somebody in my family, I was kind of thinking of ways of how can I help. I think that always happens whenever there's a concern or whenever there's a situation and it's close to you. It kind of puts a spark in you to want to contribute somehow, some way. And of course, all these years I've been able to help my mom and do things that I can as a son, as the oldest and being the firstborn. But even in moving away from California, where my parents are, I still wanted to be able to have that effect, still be able to do something that could help with bringing awareness. And like I said, just putting it on people's conscience in the forefront of their mind. And the main thing that was kind of disappointing, when I first started kind of, getting the knowledge about the disease that lupus is and what it does to your physical, what it does to your body and how it affects you, is, lupus, as known as it is, nationally and internationally and around the world, and people who are in the medical field, it's not really, I guess, highly touted if we were to compare with maybe like a breast cancer or cancer, where, you have organizations and companies like the NFL and, just different type of, I wouldn't even say marketing, but visibility, where, everybody, has seen a breast cancer commercial on TV, or everybody has seen a cancer commercial on TV, or everybody's heard of a raffle or a sweepstakes where, the awareness and the money raised is going towards, cancer research or breast cancer research. And, I don't think it's a bad thing that, certain ailments or diseases are, I guess the word would be, popular, not in a good way, but as in they're more known. But the effects that lupus has on your body are very similar to, a cancer or a breast cancer, where it really affects your body in a way that even could make day-to-day tasks very difficult, and make just daily living even strenuous, especially depending on the type of climate or the type of environment, or, just area of the country that you live in. And so basically, to break it down, lupus is an autoimmune disease, and it's not communicable. So it doesn't mean that, it can't be passed down through, through a mother or a father, but if my mom has lupus, if she gives me a hug, she's not going to give me lupus, if that makes sense. Lupus is not, it doesn't operate like that. But basically the body sees normal body functions. So that's breathing, your kidney being filtered, blood vessels, all that stuff as a disease, and your body attacks these normal functions. So lupus is worse in men. Of course, you might not even hear about lupus in men as often because really only 10% of lupus cases are in men. So it's not a large percentage, although there are men out there fighting lupus. And I want to give a shout out to all the men. Stay strong, stay encouraged, because you're not forgotten. But mainly lupus is in women when it is discovered. The majority of people dealing with lupus all around the world is women. That's the highest percentage. And so it's kind of, lupus is one of those things where sometimes you won't know somebody has it unless they tell you. And I kind of have experienced that with my mom over the last 10 plus years that she's had lupus, where on the outside she looks healthy. I would assume and believe that other people would think the same thing. If she didn't tell you that she had lupus, you would think this is a healthy woman who's living life, and she's fine. But on the inside, she might be sore. She might be feeling very ill, and it's hard to kind of even sometimes maybe convince people that you're feeling that ill because you can't see it on the outside. It's not a thing where, in certain cases, there might be some skin conditions but it's not always as noticeable as someone who's maybe been going through chemo for cancer, and you could tell because, they don't have maybe much hair on their head, or if they do, it's a very low cut. You could tell their hair was recently cut for chemotherapy. So that's, and I want to say that might even contribute to lupus not being as much on the forefront as a breast cancer or a cancer, is maybe because it's not as noticeable unless somebody tells you that they're going through it. And of course, just like with any disease, just like with any health concern that somebody might be going through, it ranges. There are extreme cases where you could definitely tell, somebody, they might be not doing so well with it, or they're having some flare-ups. And then there's, the low end where you can't tell at all. You can't, somebody could really not be feeling well, and you can't tell because, it's not that type of disease. It's an autoimmune disease. And so one thing that I thought was interesting was that, my mother, before 2006, when she was officially diagnosed with lupus, there were, at least in my opinion, from what I saw at that time, no signs. And if there were signs, they weren't huge signs. They were, maybe little things here and there that she would notice, but we weren't, fully aware of. And, my mother, she's in great shape, always has been, very fit, former track superstar, high school, college, very active lifestyle, loves to, get on the treadmill, loves to be outside, loves to, do these different types of things. And once lupus came around, it was like some of those things she had to cut down because it wasn't good for her body. And even even though those things might be good for the rest of us and everybody else, those things were adding stress to her body. And it was adding so much stress that it was after she did a marathon in San Diego that she really started having issues with lupus. And in her own words, she was telling me that she believes that her body was under so much physical stress from training and for getting ready for this marathon that the lupus-related symptoms began. And it's possible that it had been lying dormant, in her body for all these years, and it wasn't until she started working out and exercising intensely that now lupus popped up. And that's one thing that was crazy to me, because obviously we know that could happen. You could be born with something or have something in your body that, you don't know that it's there until, something happens, or until you, stress your body out too much, or until, and that's one thing that was really, I guess kind of stood out to me, just because, exercise is so good for us, running, jogging, going to the gym, getting outside, being active. It's so positive for your body. It's just so interesting that something like that could play a role in, a disease or a condition, popping up out of nowhere. And so basically after that, my mom, she had to cut down on, being outside. She had to cut down on just many different things that were normal to her and her lifestyle. She had to cut back on because lupus was having this effect on her that, lupus can make you very sore. It can make your bones hurt. Lupus, if you go out in the sun, that could be damaging to you. You have to definitely use, different creams and ointments just to make sure your skin is protected and, things like that where, we might take for granted on a regular day-to-day basis. Somebody that has lupus, they have to really think about, okay, is it sunny outside? Do I need a hat? Do I need to wear long sleeves? And lupus is very closely linked to, other things like fibromyalgia. That is also, goes along with that. Not everybody that has lupus has fibromyalgia, but it definitely can go hand in hand. And so lupus is something that once somebody in my family had it, especially somebody as close as my mother, and I realized that it wasn't just her, but she found out, that she would have friends or other family members that have lupus. It kind of, I kind of saw like this network forming, and it's like I said earlier, some of the time you don't really know who's going through something or dealing with something unless you have a common ground with it, if that makes sense. You don't, they're not going to talk about it openly maybe if they don't know that you have an understanding of it or they don't know that you're dealing with the same thing. And so as I saw my mom where she would, talk about, different websites where she's able to get information and be able to make different lifestyle adjustments, and she might, meet somebody that has lupus or, get a book about, somebody that has lupus, it made me want to do the same thing. And so when I moved up here to the Pacific Northwest and got to the Portland area here in Oregon, I was just thinking to myself, there's got to be a way where I can do some of the things that my mom is doing for someone who has lupus and still bring awareness to it. And for me, Laces for Lupus was the solution. The idea was that I'd be able to combine lifestyle and sportswear with bringing awareness and support to not only finding a cure for lupus, but for those that have lupus. And so first off, if you're interested, Laces for Lupus, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Laces, LACES, number 4. So it's not FOR, it's the number 4 Lupus, LACES 4 Lupus, LUPUS. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Starting off, I was just kind of telling people about, what the main mission is. And the main mission is, like I said, to bring awareness, and we want people to not forget about lupus when they support organizations or when they support nonprofits that are maybe for breast cancer or diabetes and some of these other things that people do deal with. I don't want people to forget about lupus just because it touches so many people. And like I said, the majority of it is women dealing with lupus right now, but 10% is men as well. And I've had men comment or send messages and saying, hey, we're here too. Don't forget about, men with lupus, that, it is possible for a man to have lupus and have to deal with the exact same thing. And so Laces for Lupus, what I did was everything is revolving around the color purple. The reason for that is the color purple, that's like the team color for like lupus support, lupus awareness. The same way breast cancer, they use the pink ribbon. Lupus uses the purple ribbon, and everything is purple related. If you go to an event or something happening and it's put on by a lupus nonprofit organization or somebody that has lupus, most likely there's going to be a lot of purple in the room. They're going to be handing out purple ribbons, purple banners, all that. So when I thought of Laces for Lupus, I was thinking, okay, well, we can base our model, we can base the sportswear or footwear or lifestyle wear that we're promoting around the color purple. And so when you go to, if you haven't seen Laces for Lupus, please do give it a follow. I would definitely appreciate it, as well as those who are already supporting Laces for Lupus. Once again, that's at Laces for Lupus, LACES, the number 4, not FOR, the number 4 Lupus, LUPUS. We're on Twitter and Instagram right now. My goal was to really be encouraging when it comes to what we post and how we promote as we're growing our base, because I know just having a mother who deals with lupus, how hard it could be, just to get out of bed on certain days. I know how hard it could be just to, walk to the kitchen, or, how hard it could be to drive around the corner and, get gas or something like that. It's not easy. And, because you can't see, from the outside what the issue may be, it may be hard to understand until you do the research, until you know somebody that has it. And I encourage those to, if you know somebody that has lupus, or if you think you know somebody or a family member, talk to them about it. If they're comfortable with that, ask them, what are ways that, I could help, or what are ways that I could keep you encouraged? Because I think that's the downside about lupus, is because it's not, as high on the list, or as highly, promoted and marketed like, a breast cancer or a cancer or diabetes. I feel like sometimes those that have it could feel a little discouraged, because it kind of feels like, they're not being cheered on, if that makes sense. It can kind of feel like they don't have as much support. It feel like the team is smaller. And like I said, just from my own experience, before, my mother was diagnosed with lupus, I didn't know anybody that had lupus. And maybe I did, and they didn't tell anybody, but outside of, somebody not making it known to me, I had never heard of lupus. She had to really break it down and explain, some of the side effects and some of the things she's going to feel, and some of the things that are going to affect her, from here on out. And so I just feel like people should really do the knowledge and do the homework to find out exactly what lupus is all about and how they can help. And so, like I said, me being a shoe guy, me being a guy who's into sportswear and streetwear, Laces for Lupus is, we're looking to collaborate with brands, whether it be a shoe company, whether it be a clothing company, whether it be, jewelry. The main focus is shoes, footwear, obviously, because Laces for Lupus, and, that's my thing. I know shoes. I know the shoe industry. So that's the main focus, but we're open to collaborating with other brands and lifestyle pieces as well. And so hopefully you guys give it a follow. Feel free to comment. Feel free to, ask any questions. We do have an email, lacesforlupus@gmail.com. That's LACES 4 lupus@gmail.com. Feel free to send any questions. Feel free to send any ideas. Any support is appreciated. I do want to give a shout out to everybody who's already followed, everybody who's already reached out and showed their support and encouragement, because that's what it's all about. I want to encourage those that do have lupus. I want to encourage those that don't have lupus to encourage others as well, because I know people need it, and it's kind of like a mission in my heart, is that not only do I want to bring awareness to it, but I want people to, for those that do have it, I want them to feel like they have an opportunity to share it with somebody else, if that makes sense. I don't want them to feel as if lupus is the end. I don't want them to feel as if, their life is now shortened because of lupus, because in all reality, they are now like walking lights. They are now, I feel like when you're dealing with something, especially as something as hard as a disease or autoimmune disease, you are now a beacon for somebody who may not be aware. You're also a beacon for those who are aware. You're able to encourage others who are going through the same thing. And I've been able to see that, and it's really amazing, when people with lupus, who are lupus warriors or lupus fighters, people who are hashtag, lupus strong, follow Laces for Lupus, or send us a DM or send us a message. It just shows how many people are affected by this. And these are people who are mothers. These are people who are fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, grandparents, veterans. It affects everybody. And it's amazing to see the camaraderie between those who have it and even those who don't, because I feel like we all either have lupus, whether you have lupus or not, we all know what it feels like to be sore. We all know what it feels like to be achy. We all know what it feels like to not want to get out of bed, or, to, just have a hard or a long day. And so I feel like, not that other diseases don't relate as well, but lupus, some of the side effects and the way it really attacks your body are things we've all felt. even if we don't have lupus. So it's a little bit, at least in my opinion, for me personally, it's easier to relate to because, if my mother or somebody tells me they're feeling achy today or their bones are, they're feeling a little tight. I know what that feels like to wake up and, shoulders be a little tight or back be a little sore or something like that. And, obviously not to the degree of somebody who has to deal with that on a regular basis, because it is something that's within their body. It's within their, their physical. But I get it, I understand it. And it's just something that's in my heart now is that I want to, be able to set up marathons to raise money for Laces for Lupus. I want to be able to design lifestyle wear and collaborate with these different shoe companies and brands to raise money for a cure for lupus. And we're in the process of doing that right now. And I'm just really glad that I'm able to share this on a platform like the podcast because so many of you have expressed that you enjoy listening. So many of you had, asked me, when's the next episode and, your comments and tweets. I appreciate them all. And I knew I had to do something outside of Laces for Lupus to bring attention to it. And so having this opportunity to really, be on my own time and talk about it is just super important to me. That's one thing I love about having a podcast is that this is my thing. This is not, and not in an arrogant way, not in a, cocky or braggadocious way, but this is my show. This is my setup. You know what I'm saying? This is what I do, and this is my platform, and I can use it however I want. And of course, my job is to use it as responsibly as possible. But it's all at my, discretion. It's however I want to use it, however I want to do it, and being able to bring put a light on Laces for Lupus and lupus awareness alone is just awesome to me. And so I'm glad that I have you guys out there to listen and hear my voice and hear exactly what I'm saying and hear what I'm passionate about. And I just hope that you guys could also share that passion with me. And if not, share it with somebody else as well. That's one thing I really enjoy about doing Laces for Lupus. One, it's similar to the podcast, outside of whenever we have sponsors and partners and other supporters, part of the team. It's something I'm doing on my own right now. It's not, I don't have a team behind Laces for Lupus. When you see the Twitter and Instagram and our social media at Laces for Lupus, LACES 4 Lupus, LUPUS. That's just me. It's just me. And, obviously we want to continue to grow, but I like having kind of that control over it because it kind of really gives me a connection to not only the followers, but what we're putting out there. And what we're putting out there, we want to be encouraging and we want to be fun. Other organizations, they have, what their base and what their brand is about. And ours is about encouraging and helping people to understand and want to support lupus awareness and finding a cure, but also to associate it, with something that, I'm interested in. And shoes and footwear, like I said, for those of you who have seen my sketches, seen my drawings, for the people I got to meet at Adidas a week or two ago, to my man John G from Brooklyn over at Adidas in Portland, I feel like there's people not only in my corner, but that see the vision and they're supporting it. And I'm really appreciative of that because without them, would I still be able to do what I do? Yes, I would be able to. But it's always nice to have support. It's always nice to have people in your corner, and especially people who see your vision. I feel like I was having a conversation the other day with somebody that, everybody, I feel like is creative to a certain degree. Whether it be art, whether it be music, whether it be home decor, whatever, whatever your thing is that you can do and you don't need encouragement for. It's just natural. It's just, that's your creative spirit. That's your creative drive that you have on the inside. And, whether you get paid to do it or for free, it's something you love to do. It's just a passion. And that's one thing I have, not only just, in the shoe industry and sketching and designing shoes and, coming up with different ideas. But, when it comes to Laces for Lupus, when I first started, I was like, wow, I really have to build up a social media presence from zero. And it's not like I did something like that, before when it came to a nonprofit organization. Obviously I've done it for my, personal accounts, just for work and for the podcast and things like that. But to actually start at zero, to actually look at a blank, Instagram page or a blank Twitter page and come up with a bio and, look into, getting websites banged out. I fell in love with the process of it. And I think most likely because it's organic, I feel like I wouldn't have it any other way. And I just really appreciate those who have kind of seen the process and they're on board. They're very encouraging and very for it. So I want to just say thanks to all those people out there. And I'm definitely going to continue to do my best to support Laces for Lupus, to promote Laces for Lupus, and to get it out there. One thing that's interesting for those that are into TV and movies is there's a lot of celebrities out there that have lupus. And what's even crazier about it is that it seems as if their fight with lupus is not as profiled as other people's fights with, diseases like cancer and breast cancer and diabetes. And it's never, my angle is never to take away from people that have, those other diseases or might have other physical concerns and ailments. But it just seems like for some reason, lupus is kind of in the shadows. And like I said, maybe it could be related to the fact that you can't always see the effects of lupus, like a celebrity like Nick Cannon, who deals with lupus. If he would have never said that he had lupus or that he's dealing with lupus, I would have never known that Nick Cannon had lupus. I would have never assumed. I would have never thought. But once he puts it out there and, brings awareness to it through his platforms, it makes sense. And he's talked about that, that's why he, will wear a head wrap, just because, lupus and fibromyalgia, the way it can attack your skin and give you different skin conditions, that's a part of it. I believe, I think it's Selena Gomez. I don't want to speak out of school, but I'm pretty sure, if I'm speaking correctly, it's Selena Gomez that has lupus, and she's talked about it in interviews. And I want to say she might have even taken a hiatus or a break from either music or movies or something to that degree. But there are people who, are regular everyday people just like us, but happen to be celebrities, happen to be in the limelight on TV or in movies and music videos, that they're dealing with it as well. Michael B. Jordan, he has a foundation. His mother has lupus. And so a lot of these people are people who I definitely love to work with, definitely love to add to the network, just because, we're all in the same fight together. To my knowledge, I don't have lupus, but I almost treat it as if I do, because that's how I'm invested in it, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, a lot of people will say, the analogy would be like when people go to prison or when people go to jail, they're not the only ones in there. Their family is in there with them, if that makes sense. Their family, they're not in there physically, but on the outside, at home or at work, they're thinking about that relative or friend that's doing a bid. They're thinking about that person that they love, sit in a cell or be out on the yard, or they're thinking about, their well-being. They're concerned for their health and how they're doing physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so I think, at least for me personally, I have that same experience with lupus, on a regular basis. My mom and all my family and friends are always in my prayers, but my mother specifically, on a regular basis, I'm thinking about how she's feeling today. Is she doing all right? Let me check in on her. Let me call her. Let me ask my dad how she doing. Let me ask my brother, and obviously it's a little bit different now, being in a different state, not being, to be able to drive, or be able to, do things with my mom on a regular basis where I'm able to actually see her. But, I still do my best to, stay on the phone with her, FaceTime. And, right now she seems like she's doing really good. And from what I've heard, she's doing well. Actually, she just recently got news that she was accepted to being placed on a lung transplant list, and that she'll be meeting with a surgeon soon. And that's definitely good news. I know she's been going to USC back and forth, having to make that drive to go to USC's campus, or it might even be UCLA to their medical facilities to get treatment and to be helped with. But I know because lupus has kind of dealt and messed up her lungs a little bit, she's in the process of getting close to a lung transplant. And so, and it's, crazy because my mom, just like a lot of other people, around the world and, here, she had asthma. She had asthma just as a regular thing. But because lupus can amplify, what might already be bothering you with your body or what might be a small thing, it can make things worse. And so that's what's happened. My mother has her lungs have been affected because of lupus. And so she needs to get a lung transplant to be 100% healthy in that area. And so I'm definitely, I'm keeping that in my prayers, if you all could as well. But that's one thing that she's in line and has to wait for. And so we're hoping that goes as smoothly as possible. But that's just one thing that, lupus, it could affect many different parts of your body that people might not even be aware of unless you have it or know somebody with it. And so Laces for Lupus, once again, if you guys want to give that a follow on social media, that's at LACES, the number 4, not FOR, the number 4, then Lupus, LUPUS. We're on Twitter and Instagram. And just be on the lookout. We're working on a few different things now. Like I said, I'm a one-man team, but I appreciate all the support of everybody. And, I definitely wanted to put this episode out so people know the inspiration behind it, because I'm pretty sure without my mother, I wouldn't even be aware of it. I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be I wouldn't be conscious of it, and I wouldn't be putting forth this effort. So my mother, Lydia Rogers, she's always in my prayers, always on my mind, and I'm fighting this with her, and I appreciate everybody's support. But make sure you go ahead and give Laces for Lupus a look out and a follow on social media. Once again, this is episode 14. It just made sense. I'm your host, Just, capital J, lowercase u, lowercase s. That's short for Just Us, because it's not just me, it's not just you, but it's just us. That's at Justice Rogers TV on social media, Twitter and Instagram, JUSTUSROGERS TV. Episode 14, Just Made Sense. I'll see you guys soon.